It's called the Isle of Kazan and then the Lost Isles. And then the Worgen will start in an area behind the Gray Main Wall in a city called Gilneas. So we're really excited to see that.
So you heard it here first. The war is back in Warcraft. But back to you guys on the desk.
We're back here live on DirecTV now. We're counting down the closing ceremonies, which are just a couple of hours away. We're going to have a level 80 Elite Tauren Chieftains performing. And also Ozzy Osbourne. He's going to rock the house here. And you guys are going to see it at home in high definition on DirecTV. That's coming up a little bit later. But there have been some other panels going on today, Kat, that we haven't been able to cover because some of them are happening at the same time. But we are going to bring one of them to you now. This was going on during the StarCraft II lore panel. This is the World of Warcraft class discussion panel. This is a taped panel, but a lot of important information for the fans of World of Warcraft.
Absolutely.
And what they can expect. So let's go take a look at that right now. We'll be back with you live after the panel to get ready for the closing ceremonies.
Please welcome our panelists, Greg Street, Corey Stockton, and Tom Chilton.
Anytime when we have a Battleground weekend, which is every weekend, we will also have, for the week during that period, it will be that week for that rated Battleground. So for example, if it were Arathi Basin weekend, then for that entire week, the featured Battleground for rated Battlegrounds would be Arathi Basin. So that helps us concentrate the queues, get a lot of players in there, and it also helps keep the gameplay changing from week to week. That way it's not really stagnant. You know, one week you'll have rated Arathi Basin, next week will be rated Warsong Gulch, Eye of the Storm, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here's a quick mock-up of what the PvP queue could look like. This is when you pop up your PvP panel in the UI. As you can see below, there's still the arenas and battlegrounds tabs. Where the arenas one is where you would see your arena team information. Battlegrounds is where you would see all your different stats for your battleground activity. And then the queue there has both battlegrounds and arenas at the top, so you'd be able to queue from anywhere for both of those. And you have your normal kind of PUG battleground options, and then at the bottom there you've got, in this particular example, the rated Warsong Gulch, because we're imagining that it's Warsong Gulch weekend. So how does it work? Let me tell you. So the basic idea here is you win a battleground, you gain rating. Your mileage may vary because it depends on the strength of the team that you're playing against, and it also depends on your own rating. So you win a battleground, you also gain arena points. Now, one of the core things here that is very different about the arena system is that there's no concept of a team. There's just the concept of you have to queue as a full group for the battleground. So in the case of Warsong Gulch, you have to queue with a group of 10 people. It can be any 10 people you want. So it could be a trade channel group that you formed. It could be guildies. It can be whatever you want. For Alterac Valley and for Isle of Conquest, the rated versions, we currently plan to use 25 people size for those battlegrounds rather than 40 person, so that you can kind of stick to the same sorts of arrangements that you make for a 25 person raid. You don't have to suddenly bloat your guild to try to get in there. Also, what's different about it is we plan to give you the arena points as you win the games. Now, this has implications for changes to the arena system in that with the arena system, we also plan to do something similar. And what we'll do is we'll limit the number of points that you can gain in a week based on what your rating was for the previous week. So the more rating you have, the more points you'll be able to get, but you'll still have to play the games in order to get those points. The reason to put a limit on it is so that it doesn't become a grind fest. We don't want players to go out there and feel like, well, it's the start of the season, I need 15,000 arena points or whatever to get all the arena gear that I need, all the PvP gear that I need. So I'm going to sit there until my eyes bleed and play games until I've got all the points that I need. So it's really important to kind of follow the model of arenas in that it's limited in terms of how many points you can get. It's a lot the same as we have with PvE in that we have raid lockouts in PvE, so you're limited in terms of how much PvE gear you can also get in any given week. You lose the battleground, and there's no rating loss, but you don't gain points. So one of the things that's very important here, it's an important distinction versus the arena system, is that because the group sizes are much larger for battlegrounds, any individual player has a lot less control over the outcome of the battle. So we think it would feel really, really crappy if you were losing rating and losing progress every time you got into a group that didn't turn out to be very good. or just had a couple of bad games or whatever. So in Battlegrounds, your rating is almost more like the highest rating you've ever attained. That's essentially what it boils down to. We plan to have 2 ratings. We have your personal rating and we have your matchmaking rating, kind of similar to the way the arena system works. The matchmaking rating will be able to go up and down because all that influences is who you play against and how many points that you build up as you win or lose. Or, well, you don't get any points when you lose, but how many points you gain when you win. So here's a quick mock-up of how the Battleground UI might look. We have, your overall Battleground rating, and we plan to use the same kind of scale that we do for the arena system, so that it can be pretty clear-cut, where we can say, oh, to get the highest level weapon, you'll have to have like a 2200 rating or something like that. And then we'll keep track of your different stats for all the different battlegrounds, the kind of stats that you see on the scoreboards at the end of the battle. So you can see your kind of lifetime history or your daily progress as far as all the different stuff you're doing. The stats are mostly just because it's cool. It's kind of fun to keep track of that stuff, your win-loss record, all that kind of stuff. Ultimately, that doesn't impact the gameplay itself. It's just kind of fun to be able to see. Really what matters as far as the gameplay goes is if you win the game, you get points. So what do I get for doing rated Battlegrounds? Well, we've got the return of the honor titles, for one. So rather than using the same titles that we have for Arena, because those obviously kind of belong and make sense for the Arena system, we have the return of things like the High Warlord or the Grand Marshal. So at the end of the season, we will, rate players according to what their rating was, pretty much exactly like we do with the arena system, and we'll give out all the different honor titles for those different points that you are. And we'll figure out exactly what the breakdown is as to what percentage of players get which titles. We also will have epic ground mounts. So in a lot the same way that you get the epic flying mount through the arena system, through the honor system, you'll get access to special epic ground mounts that you can only get through the rated battlegrounds. And of course, in addition to that, as I mentioned before, you get arena points. So that's your ticket to badass gear. And you'll also get some guild achievements and levels out of doing it if you play alongside guild mates. As Corey's going to explain in a little bit with the guild advancement system, we have a kind of approach where if you play with enough of your guild mates in the group that you're playing with, then it'll count towards any of your guild achievements, guild leveling, all that sort of stuff. So here's an example of a dude with one of those old school honor titles, one of those old school battleground titles from back in the day. So that could be you if you're a Grey Knight Priest. So in addition to that, that pretty much covers it for rated battlegrounds. We also have the concept of Tol Barad. So Tol Barad is something I mentioned briefly in the panel of the Cataclysm preview. And Tol Barad is our new form of Wintergrasp for the expansion. Tol Barad blends a combination of Wintergrasp and the Isle of Keldanas concept from Burning Crusade. I hear a lot of times from players out there that they really miss the Isle of Keldanas kind of concept. It was really cool for world PvP because there was just a lot of spontaneous action going around as people went around doing their daily quests. And so we want to integrate that concept with what we have for Wintergrasp. Hopefully also with spreading people out enough to where we have the capability to support as many people as possible at a time. So the idea here, and there's Tol Barad. That's kind of the general location of where it is in the world. We may end up having to move it somewhat. There may not actually be enough space in that part of the world for an island of the size that Tol Barad is going to have to be, but ignore that. Maybe off the coast a little bit farther. So while the battle is active, in a lot the same way that Wintergrasp goes active every couple of hours, then the daily quests shut down and it becomes the battlefield for Tol Barad, and players will be trying to battle over control of the prison. In Warcraft lore, there was a famous prison that was on the island of Tolbarad, and that's kind of what players are battling for access to, because there are secrets within this prison that both sides want. And what we're going to do is we're going to have different control points in different parts of the island that players will have to go out there and capture. And the current idea is that the first team to capture all the different control points will take control of Tolbarad. And that's one of our mechanics to help spread players out so they don't all end up in one place like the Wintergrass Fortress. Some of these control points will probably use vehicle combat kind of stuff, and other ones won't. So if you have a particular preference about whether or not you like to drive vehicles around and bash down walls and that sort of thing, then we'll have that in certain parts. And then in other parts, it'll be limited to more kind of pure PvP. So while the battle is inactive, the winning team is given access to the Tolbarad prison instance, and this prison instance will give you access to bosses a lot like the way we have Archivon and all of his buddies right now. In addition, while the battle's not in action, both sides can use the Tolbarad quest hub as their daily quest hub. We plan to have a lot of the main daily quests for the expansion be in this quest hub, a lot like the Isle of Keldanos back in the day. And so when it's in the off battle, both teams will be using these daily quests to get their dailies done. And in addition, the winning team will get access to a couple of extra bonus daily quests. So yeah, that and Tolbarad Marks of Honor. Woo! And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Corey, and Corey's going to talk about our guild leveling system.
Hey guys. So we're going to cover a bunch of topics here. Here's a quick overview of what we're going to get into. We'll talk about the levels and the talents, get into the professions, our concept of a looking for guild system, achievements, and then a couple of general features at the end. So we'll start off with the leveling concept. The pitch behind the idea of doing a guild leveling system is to really make people feel like it feels valuable to be in a guild. And people that aren't in a guild, we really want them to feel like they want to be in a guild. We think the game it's really fun when you get to play with a group of friends. You have a lot of people you connect with. So kind of the concept behind all this is really to get people into a guild and have it feel like it's valuable. So the concept of leveling is going to happen in a variety of different ways. Basically, there's a ton of different things that you can do, and all of these things will actually end up giving you basically guild experience. And we're planning to let you currently level up through 20 levels of guild leveling. That number might still change a little bit, but that's what we feel like feels good right now. So here's a couple different ways, like leveling in general. Any player in your guild gains a level. That adds to experience. Reputation ranks. Killing a boss in any raid or any dungeon. Rated battleground wins, as Tom mentioned. Also arena wins. Things like profession ranks that don't necessarily involve combat, but they're definitely helping the guild out overall, so we want them to contribute. Now the concept of boss kills there, that in order for that to work, you have to have a certain number of guild members with you. Right now we're kind of leaning to something about a 75% ratio. So in a 5-man, you would need to have 4 out of 5 people be from your guild. And then when you make that kill on that boss, you would earn guild experience for it. That same concept applies to the battlegrounds. As long as you have 75% of your team be from your guild, like 7 out of 10 in Warsong Gulch, you would then earn leveling experience for your guild. Now, each time you gain a level, you're going to earn a talent point. And these talent points can be spent in a guild talent tree. The talents that are purchased in the guild talent tree apply to everyone in the entire guild. We've got a pretty wide variety of different talents. I've got an example that we'll be able to show you here in a little bit of a couple different things. But the talents, they vary from things like reduced costs on repairs to things like mass resurrection. And the concept of how this works is we take the top 20 earners per day from the guild. And the reason we do that is because we want this system to be able to scale between a small guild that might say only have maybe 30 people all the way up to a guild that might have 500 people. So we do this by taking the top 20 earners every day. So, and that'll be actually displayed to everyone else in the guild. So if you're a guy out there that's putting in a lot of contribution, everyone in the guild's going to know that you're one of those top earners. So here's a couple screens of a couple of the talents. It'll be in the guild talent tree.